I keep laughing all these months later at that
I
music.
know, it's just so cheerful. Good morning.
I think
Yeah, it makes me want to dance.
Exactly.
It sets the tone for us that we should be able to laugh at ourselves and enjoy and have the pure joy of being able to get together and have this conversation. So welcome this morning to Getting to Unstuck. Today is a really special day because it's Thriving Thursday, and we are talking. We're talking about a spiritual practice to heal broken trust, but what makes it really special is that we have a fantastic guest today that we're going to be having a delightful conversation with that will, we know that it's going to offer you some insight and the opportunity to actually begin to change things if you are someone who is looking to understand how you can heal broken trust. So our guest is Amanda Ring, and she is a consciousness coach. She's an energy healer. She's an occupational therapist as well, and so much more. And at the core, she's a leader who believes in wholeness in work and life, and she serves people through those many qualifications. I am not going to go any further because I want to offer her the opportunity to let us learn more about her and what brought you to this place and to your work.
Well, thank you. I am so excited. I was delighted a number of months ago in the summer to meet Colin as he moved to Mahone Bay, which is the area I live just about 5 minutes outside of Mahone Bay. So we had the pleasure of connecting there and through the Mahone Bay Chambers gatherings, and recognized, oh, we're singing from the same song sheet, you know, when it comes to approach to health and wellness and coaching. And so just to share a little bit about me, I really want to focus on this really juicy question that you've brought forward because it's such an important one. I graduated in 2000, so I've been working as an OT for better part of 20 years, with a few years off to be a stay-at-home mom of my 2 kids. And when I returned to that practice, I was really disenchanted with working in the healthcare system, to be quite honest. And I actually was approached at the same time, quite synchronistically, by someone who had just started building a cooperative holistic health center and was looking for practitioners that were interested to create a new approach to health and wellness. So I've had a background in yoga for years as both a personal practice, but also trained as a yoga therapist and yoga teacher and mindfulness-based practice. And I have a very expansive and devoted spiritual side of my practice and had been exploring that. So at that time, I started working with this holistic center and started following my heart to do more spiritual training and transpersonal training, which is really involving the body and returning to the body and involving the soul aspect of empowerment work in what motivates us to be connected to life and to our families and to our dreams. And so that led me on a path of all kinds of amazing and wonderful trainings and experiences. And I've woven them all together in my own practice, which is Seven Feathers Healing Arts. And I have a great passion for working with women who are rediscovering their connection to self, opening up to their spiritual journey, and who are really wanting to understand themselves on a deeper level and change patterns that are really unhealthy for them in their lives. So that's a little bit about me. There's lots more there, but
we could spend a lot of time on all of those topics, which are so interesting. And I'm already thinking that we need to have you back for more conversations. And this is super exciting. And until now, we've kind of spent the last 3 or 4 episodes of the podcast focusing on trust and breaches of trust and in the workplace specifically. And we've brought how would you say it, sort of practical tools like, setting boundaries and what if, what are the distinctions between the breakage that might be between an employee and a leader, or between sort of the trust between two employees, or when a leader loses trust in an employee. So we've been kind of pragmatic about our conversations. So I'm really excited, about exploring the healing side of it, right? Because one of the things that we said in our last episode was, give yourself time to heal, but we didn't dive into what does that mean, right? How do you, where do you start? So it's such a great segue from the episode on Tuesday to have this conversation with you,
Yes.
and dive into the more heart-centric tools that we can use as we all know, to work and live in working environments today that are difficult and sometimes toxic. So this is great. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Definitely. But Colin, you bring up an interesting duality, because many people who live in that corporate world, and many of our listeners are leaders or people who are working in that environment. Amanda, we talked a little bit before we came on camera about how we can hold on to who we are in the workplace. What have you found with your practice?
Yeah, well, I like both of those, the question that Colin brought forward about this aspect of healing, like how do we heal? And what I'm hearing you ask is how do we remain genuine and be our authentic person in the workplace? And I work, I do a lot of one-on-one coaching work, but I also run circles and gatherings and events where we might be sharing about that. And it can be quite destructive for a lot of people when they're trying to show up in a work environment with a completely different mask on to who they are in their personal life. And it creates a lot of disconnect, but not only for the community of people at work, but with themselves. And it just slowly erodes at this sense of even confidence in who they are and knowing who they are and feeling the sense of being lost and disconnected. So I see that very much so when people are trying to morph themselves according to the culture in a workplace or in a home or in a relationship. It's really no different. Your work life is like another family. It's another system of cultural expectations and norms. And so there's two key things I had been reflecting on when Colin approached me about jumping on here with you guys that I'd love to share. And one is, healing often gets, it lands in the camp of, spirituality, right? Or it can. It's certainly in the arena of psychology as well. And we think about physical healing, but we also have emotional healing and psychological healing that happens, especially when trust is broken. It can show up in the body as a result of that physical, as a result of the emotional and psychological part of it. But what actually is a spiritual approach to healing trust, right? Like, what does that actually mean? For a lot of people, they're just like, what is that? So just to maybe bring that into a more accessible place, how I would define having a spiritual practice is something that allows you to see your place within something as well as a greater collective perspective. So, that allows you to see that there's more going on than just what's going on with you in that experience. Right. And usually something that is a spiritual exercise or a spiritual practice is also something that helps you return or restore some sense of harmony or balance within oneself, but also like how that directly relates to the greater community that you're connected with. So there is a sense of oneness that, what is happening with me is impacting the group, and what is happening with the group is impacting me. It's synonymous, right?
Mhm.
So, and there's an intention when we're doing something of a spiritual nature to evolve and grow, and have a capacity to have more understanding,
Mm.
bring more love, more compassion, more openness to a situation, right? So from that perspective, a spiritual practice usually has a self-reflective or a component of where we have self-inquiry. We're looking at what is going on within me, and what is happening in the greater. Can I see it from an eagle's perch? Can I remove my own investment in this and step out and try to see it from this bigger picture of what's happening? And so when we have a spiritual practice, it's also helping us remember that our identity and our value isn't completely defined by whatever that conflict is, or that discomfort or discourse that might be happening is, right? That it helps us return to that I have value and I am, connected to something greater that is the essence of life, regardless of what's going on with my family, regardless of what's going on at work. So it's a practice that brings you back into your body and out of your head. It helps you connect to something peaceful or elevating or expanding. So I just wanted to sort of preface this whole idea of like, what is a spiritual practice? What is a spiritual exercise? How is that different from having clear boundaries? Right?
Right.
Yes.
Which both I feel are essential in the healing process.
Right.
And the healing process to me is returning to our authentic truths and our own acknowledgement that we have value and that we're part of the collective. We're part. Yeah.
Ooh, I love the language that you're using.
Me too.
It is so uncommon in the workplace to hear terms like love, compassion, openness, harmony. And so what we like to do is be able to support leaders who have those intentions, who have those markers and milestones for themselves. How does someone, you used, when we were talking earlier, the term sovereignty. How does someone retain their sovereignty in the face of a more corporate kind of linear environment?
Yeah, and it's a complex scenario depending on the culture of that corporate environment, because some have started to incorporate more mindfulness-based practices and looking at the overall wellness of their staff and employees. Sometimes it's at face value. Sometimes there is investment on the ground to see that when people are allowed to work at their best with their best skill set, which would tie into being sovereign. It's like, I can acknowledge that, these are my innate skills that I bring to the table or that I've learned. And these are things that I'm not actually that interested in. I could do, but it's like having an employer sit with that person and say, you know what, well, how can we be creative about this position? And so that sense of sovereignty can come through. It's key for self-awareness is key. It's so key, because someone will not fully be able to enact their intentions in a sovereign way if they're not really aware of themselves, what it is what their capabilities are, what their belief in their own potential, what their challenges and their strengths are, then I feel that's a really important piece to be able to show up in a sovereign way. We have to be connected to ourselves and know ourselves, because then we also know where our triggers are.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
And I wanted to speak to this, and I think the sovereignty conversation could be a whole episode we could talk about.
Yeah.
But I think there's something really key that yeah, do you want to say something, Colin? Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say that there's a couple of other things that you mentioned too that could be whole episodes. So I think we might have to start a series. But keep going. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I interrupted.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine.
Super interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking about this in the sense of how do we healing trust to me is restoring a sense of trust. And what is that really? Trust is actually when we as individuals or as a collective, as a group, feel safe and we feel connected, right? That's what trust builds. That's what trust embodies. Like, I feel like I am safe with you and I feel I have a connection to you. So, so therefore there's openness. There is a two-way street usually.
Yes.
So when we're trying to restore trust, we need to look at, where do we feel unsafe? Where has disconnection happened? And there is a really important piece of this for people to look at as individuals. So even if there's been an incident in a workplace where trust has been broken, maybe there's been a code of conduct that has been breached, or a moral or an ethical breach of some kind. When we're faced with that, we are also going to be faced with our own personal traumas and triggers, because it's going to bring that up for us, whether we're aware of it or not. So one of the most empowering things we can also do is move into awareness of, what is this bringing up for me? How do I create safety within myself so that I can manage better conflict when it arises, discomfort, where I can feel I'm safe to be vulnerable and share how this impacted me personally and professionally. And I feel it's essential because our culture is so blame-based that, you know, in every facet of it, you know, whether it's personal relationship or, you know, corporate functioning, like, okay, this team failed this, so it's their fault, you know, blah, blah. But we need to move away from blame energy and move into accountability, which is an acknowledgement that something didn't happen that was intended to happen. There was miscommunication. So it's not pitting and divisive, as you mentioned earlier, Colin, you know, this division energy. But people typically will not feel safe to speak, you know, about how things are impacting them personally and professionally. Sometimes we cannot separate the two. We really rarely can. That's why this holistic whole human coaching is so valuable, because it's been tried to be separated, but you can't. That, you know, when there is already a culture of blame and punishment and, you know, some form of persecution coming down the pipeline, it really, doesn't create a space for people to feel that they're safe to come forward. And what happens energetically in this way is people's electromagnetic field constricts immediately.
It's diminished.
It constricts, and the walls come up. We know this. You can walk into, I mean, I've been on many healthcare teams over the years, and you know, you can walk into a team meeting and you can feel the energy of that room, right? And so that happens with us individually. So we really have to be accountable for ourselves as well. So when there is conflict in the workplace, are we actually sharing our truths? Are we actually allowing ourselves to be vulnerable with ourselves and recognize, okay, I didn't deal with that situation very well, but is that also in part because that person triggered me because they remind me of my father, or they remind me of the situation I've been in the past that is bringing up all of my self-doubt and all of my defensiveness and all of my insecurity. And so I feel like there's a big paradigm shift that needs to happen, and where that is also encouraged of people in any work environment, is to be doing their own personal work. and like how to end it, and how am I bringing that into my other relationships, my work relationships?
Oh, yes.
And that builds self-trust. If I don't feel safe within myself and I can't be honest with myself, then I'm going to have a harder time doing that, especially in situations I don't feel there is already an established platform of trust.
Oof.
It's so interesting. One of the things I heard you say earlier, connected to this, is our culture and our society has, I think anyway, certainly it's happened for me. We tend to connect self-worth and sense of self and wholeness to that job title or that position, right? So there's, I think, I don't know if you agree, but there seems to be there seems to be a need to break that link, that your self and your wholeness is not your job title or the performance review that you got the other day. What do you think about that connection of self-worth to the workplace environment that seems so tightly connected, and what you were saying before seems to be able to release that, right? That work that you can do on yourself on your own.
Yeah, I really feel the whole idea of identity is very entangled in worthiness and value, and absolutely goal oriented. And we are groomed from a very, very young age to gather all our accolades, like graduate from this, get this, all these benchmarks to meet. Rather than those be things that are expansive to us in our nature, that then we get to be this gift to society, that we get to both enjoy and receive and give in it. So yeah, in the workplace, I think there's a lot to be done. I certainly don't have all the answers to that by any stretch. And I think that we're in a time where we're creating this together, like recreating it, and that there's nothing wrong with having goals and having things to strive for. And we need deadlines. We need some form of structure. That's the very archetypal masculine energy of having structure and process. And we all benefit from that for sure. Yet it's out of balance because it's become like that. Those are the defining markers of, well, I'm a good this or I'm a good that once I've hit those. And we so internalize this by wanting to feel a sense of belonging and our worth being acknowledged, when we haven't really been nurtured to find that within ourselves first. It's been external. Like once I have this job, or once I have this promotion, or once I have this house, or once I have this relationship, or once I've hit this monetary mark, once I've done this, then I'm allowed to feel good about myself. Then I'm allowed to be seen as having greater value in society. And that's so harsh because we're not living in the present. We're constantly striving. We're not thriving. We're showing up. We're doing and putting loads of effort in, but to what end? What do we see now? So much mental health, so many mental health issues, so many chronic diseases, so many increased rates of disease process. And there's no coincidence that it's related to mental and emotional and psychological stress. And I feel that comes right down to this sense of of ourselves as having inherent value, regardless. Like a lot of people just can't get their head around, like, but I don't have to do anything to be valuable.
Yeah.
The concept of being born worthy is like,
yeah, let me go look for it.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
I work a lot with that. A big part of my work is self-love and a reclamation of self-worth. And I still work on these things too. Like that little gremlin and the ego will come up sometimes and say, shouldn't you have achieved this by now? Or, been at this part of the process? But that's not our truth. That's programming. It's indoctrination we've taken in for years through all forms of pathways. So I feel this time in our humanity's evolution, we need love and understanding, and we need people to be sovereign. We need new ideas. We need people to come with their creative, unique perspectives. We don't need everybody to come out of the Martell box.
Yes,
off the shelf,
Right.
you know?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Amanda, you've talked a lot about the spiritual stress that we are all experiencing. And I'm really highlighting, I think, the work that we need to do as individuals, our self-work.
Mm-hmm.
If our listeners were to take one step today about doing some of that work, what would you recommend we begin with?
I would recommend, do you mean sort of those in the corporate world or just
People who are going to be going to work, who maybe have listened to this at work, who think, oh, I want to go down that path. How do I begin?
Mm-hmm. I would invite them to do one of two things. One being doing a bit of journaling around what their identity is and how they've placed value on their identity. You know, so just to start to reflect on that and how that shows up for them, because and this isn't about judgment or shame. It's about self-awareness, and we can't change what we don't see. So where can they be more accepting and acknowledging of their value? And so journaling works really well for some people, just to explore that topic. Other people, I say, so some people aren't writers, and I'm like, okay, everybody's got a phone, you know, on your little audio recording on your phone, just start talking. Just like try to speak it out. So that's definitely one thing. And just to start to reflect on that, how am I letting go or allowing my workplace to define all of my worth? Like how in what other ways do I offer value to myself and to my life? Like, so starting to see outside of that, because work isn't everything either. And the other piece I would invite is actually starting to look at what is something that's spiritual for themselves. Like, is when they spend time in nature, is that something that connects them to that space where they already feel peace? They already feel a sense of softening, like literal dropping into their body. And because that's the space of worth right there. It's like, I'm here. So whether it's a walk in nature, or for somebody else, it might actually be playing a certain sport, but it brings them into this connection to themselves, but usually a space and an intentional, like, what helps me feel connected to something bigger?
Oh, yes.
Something more sacred, whether you're religious or not. It is not religious. It's like there's the magic of the world, you know, that it's like, what helps me feel that lightness and openness and groundedness? So everyone has something, and it's not the checking out of a TV series, or, you know, it's something that it fills you up from inside as soon as you experience it. It's not coming from out there and filling you up. You know, like getting together with friends and they give you all kinds of compliments and things like that. It's like there's a piece that's all fun too, but it's like it's deeper than that. It's more it's your essence. You're connecting to your essence that is more sacred. Yeah.
Lovely.
Hope
Beautiful.
that's helpful to the listeners.
Yeah.
Thank you. Amanda, this has been a fantastic conversation, and your essence is really very true, and truth is always sets us free. And so I want to just honor that and say thank you for that. Thank you for I'm noticing that people are tuning in, and we've had some really great numbers tuning in, and I think a lot of people will be listening to this episode. Our goal with everything that we do here at Getting to Unstuck in particular is to give people to serve people in the way that you've helped us do that today. So I want to say thank you for that.
Yeah.
We are going to wrap up now. If you are still here, thank you for being here. Don't forget that next Thursday, Whole Human Coaching is doing our first live coach, Whole Human. The future is Whole Human Connection. We're doing a live coaching workshop. It's 90 minutes. In order to be a part of that, you have to sign up, and seats are limited. And that is not that's not a marketing trick. That is actually true. Because this is about connection. And so seats are limited. And we're going to be showing up whole. And if you choose to join us, we invite you to do the same. And so you can find out more over at wholehumancoaching.com. And if you like this episode, all the good stuff that you can do. Colin, I'm going to hand it over to you.
I will close the show. I just had one last question for Amanda, and it's not a hard one. How can people find you if they want to connect with you and continue the conversation with you? Where can they find you? What are your links and places and stuff that you'd like to send people to?
Yes, certainly. Thank you for that. And so my website is amanda-ring.com. So they can check out the different offerings that I have there. I also have a podcast called Flight of the Feminine. And there's an episode dropping tomorrow that is would be helpful to your listeners. It's called Your Body is Talking. Are you listening?
Oh.
And so this is and there's a practical exercise in there that I take people through. So the podcast, each episode will have some kind of practical exercise that you can use in daily life to have that sense of re-embodiment, self-awareness, self-inquiry. And so I would say those are probably
We'll share that for sure.
Yeah, and
social
media, I'm a little more active on Instagram than I am Facebook, but I have presence there with Seven Feathers Healing Arts, so you can reach out through personal message as well. I'm happy to connect. I offer free discovery calls, so if people want to have a chat,
excellent,
then I'm happy to connect with you. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. This is so great.
Yeah.
And I have the topic for our next podcast together, because we started talking about masks in the workplace.
Yes.
You arrive and you put on your mask. Anyway, I'll close the show now. And,
we can carry on for another hour.
Thank you.
Don't leave us, Amanda. I will stay here, and we'll see everybody soon.
Thanks for joining.